Send me the law on my heels.
Always good to have Bob here.
Yeah.
Hello. How are you, Lauren?
I had assumed.
Okay, I'm all right. I'm here, so it's a good day.
Really shouldn't be such a catchy tune.
Just so you wake up and it's just. Lauren, I cool him up.
So I have a sheet back. Boy. I don't think she likes words, but.
Patrick, how are you? Cold. What's the warm up? That wind was pretty warm. Did you see it was, high today in Sioux Falls was 31 and Rapid City was 62.
That can come this way.
Doubled us.
How you doing, man? Jason had just asked.
What's that?
Jason had just asked. So she's home.
I've been home since 3:45 this morning.
See, I was close. I said 4 o'clock, I think. Did you end up in Omaha or?
We got a flight to Omaha from Dallas, and then we drove for them.
Good call.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd just be
Just
leaving
be
Dallas.
gone. Awful lot of red coming from that seat over there, Mr. Peterson.
Fair. My opportunities aren't near as great
You can
as.
take them when you get them.
Yep.
Fair enough.
It's okay, thank you.
Sure. I can't believe it. That's just, it's a gut, we're gonna make it, so I just.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. Okay.
Thank you.
You don't want to listen to me that much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome this evening. Nate, are there any additions to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to the public hearings. I now declare us open for public hearings, 7 p.m. Nate?
Mayor and council, the city's received and processed an application to rezone the Opheim or Opheim condition from A1 agricultural to R2 multifamily residential. Property was annexed a handful of years ago upon subdivision of a larger parent parcel. In addition to annexation, we have required a dedication of a 300-foot right-of-way down the existing driveway. for future street use. The property to the south, the Opine addition, is now under contract with a contingency for the successful rezone. The property is bordered to the northwest and south by agricultural zone, and on the east by the multifamily housing zone. Tonight's public hearing has been scheduled and noticed for the public to speak on the rezoning application. In terms of the city's policy perspective, we looked to a couple of different documents when determining recommendations on such an application. First and foremost, the comprehensive plan, that provides a guideline for future land use decisions. This property has no official designation in that plan, which leaves open the possibility of R2 zoning. The comprehensive plan also includes a number of goals and policies that impact the decision, including encouraging new residential growth within the city limits, providing opportunities for residents to live and work in Lennox. Additionally, the recent housing study has highlighted the need for multifamily housing in the community, and this type of zoning would encourage that development, thus increasing the number of available rental units in Lennox. The application was heard at a public hearing by the Planning Commission on October 23, and was unanimously recommended for approval to the City Council for recommended passage. In terms of usage, there's a list of permitted uses in the proposed zone that includes multi-dwelling units, single-family detached dwellings, so just a single-family home, single-family attached dwellings, so duplexes, quads, churches, libraries, schools, public parks, public service facilities, neighborhood utility facilities, electrical substations, fences, and accessory buildings. A map of the addition, including neighboring zoning and the applicable flood zone, is included in the briefing. Staff recommendation is a motion to approve the first reading of the rezone ordinance number 662.
All right, thank you, Nate. We'll open this up for discussion specifically to this item. So please come up, state your name, and then after that open discussion is done, council will discuss then too. So please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and share what you'd like to share.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. James C. Gibbon, 46581 282nd Street, Lennox, South Dakota. As some of you may know, Howard Opine was my father-in-law, and I had the opportunity, of course, to farm this piece of ground for approximately 50 years. And I know that when we went in front of the planning and zoning a couple of weeks ago, I told them very much that I knew pretty much every piece of this land and how it lays and how it will, weather will affect it one way or another. I think it's important. I think we presented that night that, you know, you need to know some things about the property, I think, to make a constructive decision on this. And I think that what we said was that, you know, if you don't take care of the little things can become big things. And I think specifically what we were pointing out that evening was that, first of all, this year, this is the first year I can remember that the stock dam was completely dry. The creek, Long Creek, was completely dry except for the area around the bridge there along Cleveland Avenue. And one of the things that we do have is Lennox City Water, which goes down the driveway and of course feeds the house and of course feeds the cattle tank. And of course, if I hadn't had that this year, it would have been very difficult to maintain livestock there because most of the water by the bridge was pretty stagnant. I think also when it's important that you know, whatever you decide to do, if this is going to be, if you're going to go ahead and approve what the planning and zoning did, that you realize that, you know, this is a water line that can't be disturbed. We need that. Also, we have to realize that we have tile. We have tile, which is north of that driveway, which goes under the driveway, and then of course goes under the driveway and along Cleveland Avenue, and then also along this land. Obviously, we don't want that disturbed. It does help take care of a lot of drainage. Water that comes north of that driveway, a lot of it comes from, I believe it is First Avenue, which is the street that Ebenezer is on, and it echoes down that way west. And you know, it comes with such force. And of course, the road ditch, we can't dig it out because there's a lot of fiber optic cable and things like that. And so we do get a lot of water. I think that, I always felt that when Lennox grew, that perhaps it would grow north and east, maybe southeast. I guess I never really felt it would grow west because you run into a lot of problems. Water, drainage, particularly R2, you run into Rolling Creek, you run into wetland issues, and of course you don't go that much farther and you run into Turner County. So, God forbid. But anyway, I think we do not have a septic system on that farm. We have a septic tank. I think that someday if there is, you approve this building permit and so on, you're gonna have to have a lift station. Sewage isn't gonna be able to, my estimation, end up where your facility without a lift station. And I know probably maybe Mitch would agree or disagree with me, but anyway, that is an issue and a cost. And you know, who's gonna pay for that? That's something that you need to know about. Obviously too, you need to have 2 exit points, I imagine along Cleveland. And I know that, you know, one of the worst intersections I think we have in all of Lincoln County is that intersection with Highway 44 in Cleveland. If you take that, you realize that you kind of have to turn and look to make sure that curve and nobody's coming, and you also have to look the curve that's coming from the east. And if you do have apartments with several residents, you know, if they use that exit point, you're going to have, I think, possibility of accidents and so forth. That is a tough intersection, and I think somewhat dangerous and so on. Obviously, the other concern that I had as a farmer is the fencing, and I know maybe my daughter will address a little bit about that as well, because if we're going to continue, if I continue to use that as a pasture or rent it out to someone that has livestock, we have to have an easement to be able to get at the fence along Long Creek, which would be very difficult to get to because the Long Creek pretty much goes along the fence line and so forth. So again, these are some of the concerns, and I know that being in previous government, it's really easy to just approve what planning and zoning does. And planning and zoning has a tough job. And just say, well, they approved it, so it must be okay. Well, I hope that you look a little deeper than they did, because these are things that I think you need to look at, particularly public safety, and particularly looking at the growth aspect and which direction traffic will go, and so on and so forth. So again, thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
I have a question for you, Mr. Dubin. How long ago did that property go for sale? Out of curiosity, I'm just wondering.
My father-in-law, I believe, passed away about 4 years ago, and approximately, I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4, and in settling the estate,
Yeah.
My sister-in-law ended up with that piece of property, and I know that she's had it for sale. Again, it's a piece of property I would have liked to have had agriculturally, but obviously she would like commercial price, and I'm not, the price of corn and beans aren't quite good enough to pay for that, so anyway.
And three or 4 years, Dad?
What's
It's
that?
been for sale 3 or 4 years?
Yes, all right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So you, in your opinion, you prefer that it just stay agriculture?
I would, obviously, because I just think it's not a very good piece for development. Much of the area, as my daughter will show, is in the new FEMA floodplain. So,
Any other questions for Mr. Dubin?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betsy Hills, and I live at 4th and Cleveland Avenue. I know a lot about this land, as my husband and I are the adjacent landowners, and this was my grandfather's farm. And because I'm knowledgeable in this, I hope that you listen to the points I'm about to make. Because if you move forward, as my father stated, you need to take care of some of these small things before they become big problems. I'm going to start with the aspects which will impact me, and then I'm going to move into more categories which will impact the town as a whole. So number one, this was zoned agricultural. For a reason initially. Everyone who's a true Lennox OG knows the Doc Opine place and its beauty. And currently, about 5:30 p.m., the last couple of nights consistently, I've heard the owl living at my place. I have a family of about 6 deer or so, which travel back and forth between my land and my neighbor's property, and there is beauty in this rural area I would like to keep preserved. Next, there is the pasture to the west, which will always remain pasture, and as the adjacent landowner, we need an easement. And this isn't because I think this would be a benefit for me, or because I think this would be nice. This is a necessity. The reason being is because of where the property lines lie in proximity to Long Creek, there is a portion of the fence line we cannot physically get to as well. The options are to swim Long Creek, which I'm not going to do, get an easement or something of that nature, or to trespass. Those are the options. My understanding is this property has been annexed by the city of Lennox. Is that correct? So therefore, if it is annexed, or if it will be annexed, you do have the jurisdiction to approve a preliminary design which grants me an easement or something of that nature. Next, this land and surrounding land is in a FEMA floodplain. So in layman's terms, this is not a rectangular piece of level farm ground. This is public knowledge. It's on the county website for everybody to view, but I also brought some visuals. So if you see here, this is the land. In the blue is the FEMA floodplain, and the orange or the yellow is the 500-year plan. And some established communities do take the yellow into consideration, but not all. So you can kind of see what we're dealing with is that there's a great portion of it considered a FEMA floodplain. Now, I'm going to show you some pictures, and I can pass that around too. The June 2024 flood lives rent-free in my mind. I showed this to planning and zoning, but this is actually not my land. This is the pending land with the developer, and this is what happens when you get too much water. And this land is tiled, which I'll get to in a minute, but this is from the June 2024 flood. This is the land to the north, which is not in the FEMA floodplain. This is also not my land, and it's just a very low area, and this is what happens when you get too much water, the June 2024 flood. This is the end of the driveway and also the pending land with the developer. Again, you can see what happens when this area gets too much water, and that water is also on Cleveland Avenue as well. So the points I'm trying to make here with showing that is, first off, this land is tiled, and it's tiled between multiple landowners and those responsible. So this is what happens when we get too much rain. Therefore, the tile line, if there is some building, it needs to remain fully functional. The reason being, because this is a FEMA floodplain, and there's also a lot of low-lying ground here. This is a joint effort with the developer, engineer, city, and everybody responsible. Second thing with the floodplain is there are laws with drainage impacting neighbors. It has to be done responsibly. And the city has to ensure there's not a change with the base flood elevation with earthwork or grading. You can't be a detriment to your neighbor. So if it's developed, it's important the runoff flows south on this property because it's the lowest point, as you can see here. And it's not going to flow west towards me. So let's keep this in mind. There are laws too with polluting public waterways, hence Long Creek, and I would really hope this would be done correctly if this does move forward. One of the last things is we do need to address traffic. My dad mentioned this earlier, but Cleveland Avenue and Highway 44, that intersection is arguably one of the worst in the county. So everybody's homework here, listening at home or here tonight, is to do this. To drive south on Cleveland Avenue, like you're heading towards the cemetery, and once you get to that intersection of Cleveland and 44, try to turn left. And bonus points if you do it when the sun is rising or when the sun is setting, because you have to turn your vehicle all the way to the right. because that road turns and you have trucks going to and from Coed, is a very, very dangerous intersection. And this means more traffic will head to the school. I know this because I live this, or if I try to go to one of the gas stations, a person has to drive down Boynton, and that is a terrible, rough gravel road to begin with, especially by me. So traffic will either have to head towards the school or head that way. Is there money for road improvements? Also security, are we increasing police force or law enforcement response? If we have X amount of people or so in the western part of the town, then what? So in closing, if this moves forward, I would hope we can work together, because if you move forward, you have to take care of some of these small things that I'm talking about before they become big issues that can't be ignored. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will pass these around for you.
Other discussion, come on up.
My name is Ralph Trolson, 27821 Cleveland. We've got a picture here, which is really kind of nice to, if you guys could look at it. This is just about in front of my house. Got kids inner tubing down Cleveland. Now, that was our last flood. And what happens is most of the water is coming from through Quakers down into the ditch and then goes down into my ditch. Now, it has happened that I've noticed that the flood going through there, since they raised the land on the east side of Cleveland, that has actually stopped any of the water going through there. Now everything's got to go into the west ditch, which is my ditch. I've never had really too much water in my ditch until they raised that. Now next thing you know, my whole front lawn was completely flooded. Now, if you guys do this, what they're gonna have to do on this development, they're gonna have to raise that land up just like they did on the east side, which is gonna completely bottleneck any water going that way. Now, as if you take a look, I mean, kids were having a hell of a time. They were starting at by my house, right across from Quaker, and they were taking it all the way down to Highway 44 inner tubes. So the bad thing is, if that thing goes through, they're gonna build up that land. And guess what? Now it's gonna bottleneck everything. Now it's gonna back that water all the way up. Like I said, this last time, my front lawn was completely flooded. I had 9 inches of water in it. Now, if you do this, it's gonna get 10 times, 20 times worse. I don't know what the solution to this would be, because the simple fact is, you can't put storm sewers in. I mean, you'd have to dig up both of the ditches and try to put something in, but where do you dump it? We gotta dump it in the creek. Guess what? That's already full of water. So, like I said, these guys got their problems too, but I can see that this is gonna be a lot of problems for me too, because it's just gonna be backed up. I don't know, does anybody even know what they're trying to plan and put it in there?
I haven't heard officially, no.
Well, and that's what I kind of talked to the zoning commission too. I says, how can you guys say yay or nay if you don't know what's going on? I mean, the guy just got halfway laughed at me, and I said, well, what's to stop somebody putting a 1,000-unit apartment building up? Take 20 acres and put a 4-story apartment complex up. We don't, like I said, how can you make a decision unless you know what's going in? I mean, like I said, I've been in construction since 1974. I know construction. And there's a multitude of things that's gonna go wrong here. Have you guys, anybody drove down Cleveland? Them semis from Quaker are just ripping it up. Now you start adding more vehicles to it. Now, next thing you know, as the contractors put this thing in, Are they gonna redo Cleveland? I mean, I have bad water problems in Twin. My water pressure at my place sucks. Now to put up another multifamily deal, is the water pressure gonna keep on going down? I mean, I don't mind, I understand that Lennox wants to grow, but I don't think a multifamily deal there is gonna be doing it. It's, you got the sewage system on one side of the road, you got a trailer park on the other side of the road, then you're gonna put another, bunch of maybe apartments on the other side of the road. I mean, you're kind of putting a big bottleneck there. And like I said, traffic sucks. Going past my place, like it was brought up, either you're gonna go past my place or you're gonna go past the school. Look at how many extra cars you're gonna be going past that school every morning and night. But I think, like I said, there's gonna have to be a lot of serious thought about exactly how many people could actually go onto that property. But like I said, if I start having a bunch of water backing up into my property because of it, then what do? I mean, I know that's an if could, would, or shoulda, but I'm just looking at it for right now that we will have another rain. And if it completely floods my house out, because they put in a housing development, I don't mind single family houses. They put all of them when they want. But when you start putting multifamily in and you use the most square footage of land for your house, you don't have no yard, no nothing. Where a single family house is, at least you get water runoff and you got lawns and stuff like that. A multifamily, you don't. It's nothing but building. So, like I said, main deal is like the water issue is gonna be a great big one. And if they can figure out how to get rid of the water, they'll have to come all the way up to Quakers and do something right there, because that's where my water starts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
So I am Patrick Hills. I own 27851 Cleveland Avenue. My wife Betsy. Kind of like what they all said. I'm a little newer to the area. We moved out here in 2022. One of my first experiences was its flood that came through, washed out our driveway. I know the city has now 300 foot, but our driveway still hasn't fully recovered from that. We put gravel down. Anytime we see water, rain, snow, we see issues at the end of our driveway. So on top of that, I am a Lakota member, and my concern is that, like they said, we raise this land for development. We have that bottleneck to the north. That water will sit up to the north, and I'm concerned that our property where it lies, we'll see that water come towards our property from the north. We are built up a little higher where it protects us from the south and the west with Long Creek. But with that land rising up potentially, I don't see good things happening with that water. Where's it going to go? Same thing goes with Lakota. That flooded out too with that rain, and if we have even more elevation with the land right there, if that water does run south and west, I mean, that's going to dump right into the golf course there too. So just really hoping that with the planning and stuff, that is something that is addressed with where's that water going to go, and what are we going to do with the infrastructure, like I said, with some of those roads there. Cleveland Avenue is a concern. You know, we've got a couple little girls, and they like going across the street to that park. With that traffic there, you know, that's going to be a huge concern with the amount going back and forth. Some sort of traffic control is going to have to be done with not only our intersection there, but like they said with the highway, it's gonna have to be reworked because it's already bad, but it'll only get worse with more traffic. So I just hope that that's something that's in consideration and that water issue is really something that's looked at because, just don't see it's already a problem. I don't see it getting any better with any more elevation there with that land, so. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Do we close public hearing or do we discuss as council?
You can close off public comment and discuss.
Okay, all right, so we'll close the public comment now. And discussion from council.
I guess I'd like to hear from Mitch on his thoughts of how do we as a city approach the water concerns and you know, what oversight do we have on any developer coming in and negatively affecting these people?
So right now, we're at a zoning hearing, so really what you're trying to decipher is the use
Yep.
of the land. And you have your zoning classifications that allow specific uses. So approval of a change allows different permitted uses within those. From there, a developer, or whoever the owner of the property, if they want to develop the land, the city has the authorization to permit development. And for them to get permitted, they submit sets of plans to city staff, they get reviewed, you have standards in place for drainage, for the sewer, for the water systems, access. So they are obligated to meet those standards before they would ever be permitted for any construction to occur. There are, federal regulations that they have to adhere to. There's the floodplain that we've already talked about. That's a federally mandated requirement that they have to do their due diligence before they can work in that area. So there's guidelines that they have to follow for that. So there's a whole approval process that would, you would go through before they were permitted to build anything, just like any developer in town.
We've had 3 substantial flood events in the last 11 years here. And when they're doing their drainage math, what's their volume of water they're using to calculate that?
So there's all engineering calculations that they have to adhere to. You have an ordinance in place too as well that references to the floodplains that are out there. For instance, the 100-year floodplain was, that map that's on there was the area in blue. The area that's in orange is the 500-year floodplain. You don't have any ordinances that reference the 500-year, but you do have ones that reference the 100-year. You do have a requirement that any structure that's put up there, I believe you have to be at least a foot, if not 2 feet above there. I don't know what yours is offhand. 1 foot. So they have to, that's a measure. FEMA only requires them to be at that elevation or higher. The city of Lennox goes beyond that and says that we're gonna require structures along the floodplain to be a foot higher than it. So you do have that added protection in your ordinances. But as far as the calculations, it's standard industry calculations that are required. You have similar standards to what Sioux Falls requires, to what a lot of the surrounding communities require in this area.
So with elevations changing, going up a foot minimum, that does affect where the water is going to go.
The water usually, when you fill a site, the water will shed, still intend to go to where it did before. The concern always is that there's more hard surface, more runoff. So they have standards written into there that they have to detain that runoff. They have to, and there's state statutes that we harken back to there too. State statute basically says that you cannot discharge at a higher rate than what you did previously, and there's ways to calculate that as engineers to be able to prove that they're adhering to that.
So if there's enough surface, they would have to put a detention pond there?
Yes, yep. And you see them,
Yeah. Had four of them in countryside.
Yep. Yep, and that's in an effort to slow the water down so that it doesn't impact the downstream neighbors. There's also concerns about you can't dam the water up on someone upstream of you. Those are state standards that we have to adhere to. So those are the things that we look for, I guess, when we're reviewing the plans.
What if the only solution is to make additional changes off the property?
Then that's for them to negotiate it with those adjacent property owners.
And if the adjacent property owners say, I'm not interested?
Then it's between them, and if that's the, if the developer is in that position, then that's for him to, we really don't get involved with that as the city. We require them to bring us a plan that is feasible, that's constructible, that has all the necessary permits and approvals, whether it's an adjacent landowner or, a regulatory agency.
Other questions from Mitch while he's up here?
The issues of traffic, I don't spend enough time, I play volleyball there all summer long, but I don't recall seeing, I'm not catching the Quaker traffic at that point.
Yeah. We haven't done counts on it in a while, but I know the intersection at Highway 44 is atrocious, and that is a difficult intersection to navigate. We have plans out there that we've done that try to show some different realignments of that intersection someday, when that does get improved. But yeah, it's not a good intersection.
DOT does have, and I don't know what year this is from, but they do have average daily traffic counts for Cleveland. It doesn't get real specific, but it just says 0 to 250 a day is their current average daily traffic. I don't know. That's 2024. Give me a scale. What is that? How does that relate to most streets in town? Okay. Highway 44, 1,500 to 2,500 vehicles a day. Highway 17, greater than 2,500.
So you said that measurement was 0 to 250?
0 to 200.
And you don't know when that was from?
2024.
Okay.
We don't have a count on there. We can. I mean,
Yeah.
we can measure it for a week. We do have a traffic counter, but we have not counted Cleveland because it's not a city street.
What would be the plan to get water and sewer to this property?
So developer, we put that burden on the developer, but I would expect the closest location for sewer is at the 4th and Cleveland intersection. And whether they can get their whole site to gravity to that location, I don't know. It's probably close on whether they can or not. Again, that'd be for them to investigate, and if they needed a lift station on their site, that'd be something that they propose. Water is in the same vicinity in that same intersection. That'd be the closest connection to the city's water system.
Mr. Cholson mentioned that his water pressure is pretty weak already. Would this hinder that, or would it improve that?
I don't expect it would. Yeah, they would be required to probably extend a main down there, so your minimum standard is an 8-inch main. And we specify 8 inches because usually you don't see any changes in pressure when you have a larger pipe like that. I don't know what feeds that north end offhand. It could be a smaller pipe. But I wouldn't expect that extending as the city main would have a large impact on it.
With all of the drainage requirements we have when anyone's developing anything in this town, is it conceivable that that could be an improvement?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as, I guess, an improvement to the land is.
Well, you saw the pictures. Could it improve the drainage?
Oh, yeah. I would think so. I mean, it all depends on their plan and how they engineer it. Probably a lot of different ways they could approach it, depending on how they lay things out. But yeah, if they, if they're able to improve the ditches while they're out there and add more slopes to them, that helps. That would help shed water. I would expect that if someone were to develop that, they would raise it like someone was talking earlier. Where that dirt would come from, I don't know. Or if they'd use some of the excavations on site to raise it, might be an option to do. They might end up digging a bigger detention pond than they need just to help raise the site. Those are things that we see developers do, you know, if they wanna go above and beyond even.
What's our role in this, as the city with the easement concern that she had?
The easement, for private facilities, we usually don't get involved with that. We usually don't hold up a project for a private easement. So I think we've met with them before and suggested that they try to work that out with the developer, on their end.
Excuse me for a minute. I have a question. When they built up that property on Fourth and Cleveland, that made it so that it flooded our street. It never flooded that street until they built up that property on the corner, because they're gonna build on that corner.
And that was just a little bit ago. We did have public comment. We had a chance for you to come up and speak, and that is closed right now. So could you please keep that down? Thank you.
Excuse me, sorry.
I'm not sure, did I answer?
Yeah, I think so. And then just the, like, if there's existing drainage, like a new development can't block that tile drainage, right? They have to maintain that,
The tile again is a private facility, so if there's maps of that, I would certainly advise that they gather those and give them to the developer if he's gonna do a project. We can sure make him aware that there's a tile out there, but that is a private facility, it's not a public facility. Just like any gas main or any, you know, pipeline that might cross a property, it's really for, we're not there to protect the interests of that private facility. But I would always suggest that they get that information in front of the developer.
I would think they just maybe loop that tile back off of the property.
Yeah, to me, it's always best to keep it intact when you come across a tile, so most developers will keep it intact just because it helps drain their property too at the same time. Sure. The problem a lot of times is they don't know where it's at and they don't know that they've cut through it, you know. And so that's why if there's maps or if there's people that know where it's located, so that if they do happen to dig through it, they can look for it and put it back together.
Sure.
That's usually the challenge.
Anything else from Mitch?
Mr. Gibbon, had mentioned that there was maybe need for 2 exits on Cleveland. Since the city utilizes that first 300 feet on 4th, 300? Is that a potential access point?
Yeah, that's where we would expect access to be located, and we have to coordinate that with the county, because they still have jurisdiction over that roadway, and I know we're working on an agreement to take over the access jurisdiction. But that would be the most likely location for an access point, is at 4th Avenue intersection. And whether they propose a second one, it all depend on their site. We do have standards on how close access points can be. We would wanna try to limit the access on Cleveland as much as possible on those main roads, just so we can eliminate as many potential conflict points as we can. But it really depends on their site and how they lay things out.
At which point then, with that access point, do we have, and this might be a question for you or Nate, do we have anticipation for anything for the creek side that would cross over into this addition?
In terms of access,
Like a crossway?
it's possible. I don't think they'd be able to I don't think they'd be able to access 4th directly from that property.
I don't know what you might
No,
be
for
asking.
example, like creating a 5th.
Right, yeah, I don't know that we've seen a concept plan for what the purchaser of Creekside wants to do there,
Okay.
but they're going to need access from somewhere.
And we would try to coordinate those accesses on the
Right.
east and west side so that they line up as much as possible.
Okay.
We've done some concepts for the Creekside in the past with some proposed alignments of where maybe the street could come in. So that is available, and we'll share that with anybody that is looking to do a project on the west side, so that they can potentially line those up if they're gonna propose another access point there.
So just for clarification, like this public hearing's for just the rezoning, and then if and when a developer has a plan, there'd be another public hearing at that point?
Well, so it depends on how he approaches it again, because if he's only gonna do one project on that property, he can start the building permit process after this. And that is completely administrative.
Okay.
That will not come back to a board, won't come back to planning and zoning, or go through city staff. If there is a plat, that will also remain with city staff, I guess, that won't even go to planning and zoning. So
Only if there's a preliminary plan filed, it would come back.
Yep.
If they were to subdivide it though, that would go to planning and zoning, right?
If they did.
Only if they did a preliminary plan. Only if it required a preliminary plan.
Yeah.
Plat within city limits doesn't require review from P and Z. But part of that building permit process that we talked about administratively would include those engineering submittals,
Right.
the development plan, so on and so
So our,
forth.
Stockwell would have oversight over making sure that it's
Yep.
meeting all the standards, it's not gonna flood the neighbors,
Right.
worse than they're at today.
Yep.
Other questions for Mitch? This moment, okay.
Question for Chief Erickson regarding traffic on Cleveland. I know you won't be able to give me any statistics, but anecdotally speaking, what's traffic enforcement like over there?
Traffic enforcement isn't as heavy on Cleveland. It's more of an industrial area. We do some minor traffic onto it. We don't spend a lot of time. Our focus has been primarily through the school zones and our heavily traveled roads that are pretty much straight through towns. I don't see a lot of complaints that we've had coming in off from Cleveland. Certain times of day, a lot of people are correct with the Quaker traffic. That is probably the biggest nuisance traffic that we have. That's all gonna be industrial traffic. They have some smaller pickups with some longer flatbeds that do deliver there. They do have semi-trucks. But as far as for general traffic itself, we don't see as high of a volume as we do in other parts of town that have the same need for the excessive speed or the careless driving, the danger to the general public.
Would there be a stronger need for coverage if a multifamily facility was built there?
There's the possibility, due to the size and the amount of people that would come through there, there is a potential that we could need a stronger presence for law enforcement. Again, thinking about if we have a 4-story apartment complex that has 600 units. Yes, we would need a heavier force over there. We'd probably have more not traffic-related calls that we would be responding to in that area. As any growth, the demand for people to move into said buildings that you're constructing, it's going to come. And when people move into your town, they're bringing their problems with them, whether they're good, whether they're bad. We've already seen some areas up in the new development that we've had to spend a little bit more attention on. It's the nature of the beast, and yes, there's the high potential.
Fair enough. And staffing wise, it's always a constraint. So it would engage that conversation further as to how to properly staff you and your department.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Erickson? All right. Thanks.
I have one question, and this might be sorry, again, back to Mitch, but our master, trail plan that we've developed, I know we were hoping to wrap that from Highway 44, back into town. How does the rezoning of this, does that help our case with, I mean, I don't remember what side of the road that trail was on either.
I don't know that it changes anything there. I mean, I always kind of thought it would end up on the east side if you ever, were able to pull that off. But I don't think that this would change anything.
It could change our funding capabilities, just because you've got more access to it, but that'd really be it.
But that could also help with some of the concerns with, you know, if there are more families and children that end up living in that area of town, if we were able to get the trail completed, they wouldn't be on the road.
Right. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Other discussion from council?
I like that we've got real strong rules in place regarding what has to be done, and that we've got engineering eyeballs looking at whatever's going to be submitted. That gives me some peace. And having witnessed water on that property for numerous times in a short amount of time, we're all concerned. I know I'm concerned. So it's hard for me as a non-engineer to wrap my head around how that construction is going to possibly impact or negatively impact that area. Because again, it could go either way, but that's why we have rules, right? Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay. If not, let's see here, we'll look for a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 662, Opine edition. Or Opine rezoning, sorry.
I'll motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 662. Second.
A motion, a second, any further discussion? I do want to just say one thing, that I do appreciate the public comment and share. There's a lot of personal ties to this land as well as what you've seen and witnessed, and I do thank you for sharing that, and it's something that I know Mitch takes very seriously too. We do not want to make this a problem for you, and so we want to do our due diligence and doing some good research and being really strict on what Mitch approves, and so that will be in a lot of discussion moving forward. And also the concern off of what you guys had said too, something that we want to look into as well. So we want to be good neighbors, and it's hard to make everyone happy and make good choices. And there's a growth of the city that is happening that I'm thankful for, and just trying to do what's right here. And I echo what Bill said too, just we do have some strong standards in place and law in place. And I do hope that this will make the property and along there in Cleveland and things just better over time. So not done with this, there's still plans that have to come forward, but I do appreciate your sharing and speaking tonight, so thank you. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion does carry. So now the public hearing is closed, 7:50 p.m. On to the next item here, we have visitors to be heard. So these are things that are not on the agenda. If you wish to come forward and share, please state your name and address and keep it to 2 minutes, please. No visitors, okay. We'll move forward to the consent agenda. Nate, anything you'd like to draw attention to?
A couple items, Mayor and Council. Item 4.5 is just our work order for next year's fireworks purchase. Would like to order a little bit more, and if by ordering early, we can get more volume. 4.6, naming official depositories or our banks. We didn't do that in our May meeting. The auditors would really like us to, and so we're gonna correct that. There's an administration agreement with Southeastern Council of Governments, CCOG, for our community development block grant. That is included in there, as well as the grant agreement for the community development block grant with the state of South Dakota.
Okay. Discussion or things that council wish to address within the consent agenda?
Still very excited to be moving forward with our community development block grant and our Oriole Avenue project. That's really good news. So I'll echo it again.
Every time I drive it, I'm happy that we are doing this project. It is gonna take a lot of coordination, obviously, with Wilson Trailer and Sioux Steel, the school and the DOT. We've already had some of those initial discussions, so.
Any more discussion?
Maybe a question. When the construction is done on the highways, I saw that in your little weekly wrap. What are the alternate routes?
The route, if you usually take the Klondike out of town, you're going to take the Casey's Road, so east of Casey's, and then to the T blacktop.
Yep.
If you are used to taking 1744 past Flowers by Bob, past the lumberyard, that area, your traffic is going to happen a mile west. So instead of going past Flowers by Bob and the lumberyard, you'll go past the wastewater treatment plant, cemetery, and then you'll turn east at that intersection.
Okay.
On a very challenging intersection.
It will be.
That is tough.
Anybody who's been down to that intersection where you turn east or turn north would know that there's a slight obstruction there with some trees.
Yeah.
I did bring that up in our discussion with DOT and the county. Since it's a county road but a DOT project, they were both here for that discussion.
Good. Thank you.
It sounds like they've already addressed some of the initial discussions with that property owner.
Good. Anything else from council?
Just a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Take it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. We'll do roll call. Doherty.
Aye.
Teasy.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
Swear.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
Mandrell.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. No old business this evening, but new business under 6, ordinance 663 fiscal year 2026 appropriations.
Mayor and council, we need to pass a budget ordinance for fiscal year 2026. City council held a public hearing on the proposed budget on October 27th. At that meeting, the public and the city council had the opportunity to seek clarity on any areas of proposed budget and make proposed amendments to that budget. No changes were proposed. Staff followed that meeting with drafting of the required appropriations ordinance. That is now prepared and ready for your review and approval of first reading tonight. Following tonight's meeting, you'll have an opportunity to approve a second reading at the November 24 meeting with the ordinance published and being enacted before the first of the year. I recommend a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 663.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion?
Big thank you to all our heads for really working hard on this.
Good call out, Laura.
Agreed.
Any other discussion? Cool. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. On to 6.2, draft school resource officer agreement.
Mayor and council, the city and the Lennox School District have been discussing the creation of a SRO program within the Lennox School District. Approximately 7 years ago, the city and the school discussed a very preliminary, on a very preliminary scale, the creation of an SRO program to assist the school district with a variety of law enforcement needs within their schools. That discussion has resurfaced again a couple of times in the following years, but has really never made much progress. Chief Erickson and I met with Superintendent Shaw earlier this fall to discuss the broad parameters of an SRO program. Mr. Shaw has previously served as a Madison City Commissioner and is familiar with that community's SRO program, and provided the agreement used by the City of Madison and Madison School Districts for that program. I vetted that agreement and provided it in your packets for discussion tonight. In terms of action tonight, I'm looking simply for guidance, a review, and discussion on any issues that may need clarity. And then we'll use that feedback in discussion with the school district. So we're not asking for any official action tonight, just discussion and guidance.
Perfect. Discussion and guidance.
You've shared the cost share element of this with us previously, and that's really the only way it works. Thank goodness for that. Is the school board, have they made a final determination on this?
The only thing I've heard is that it came out of their strategic plan that this is a top priority for them in 2026. My assumption is that money would follow with that, though their budget does not begin until July, whereas ours begins in June. So my guess is that if we can get this to happen, their FY27 budget, which begins on July 1, 2026, will include funds for that cost share.
Very good, thank you.
So we wouldn't hire this person until after that point?
Correct. Yep. And that's what our budget reflects. I think it's July 1 or August 1. I think it's July 1 start date.
Now, this SRO would also need a vehicle, correct? Do we split that with the school?
Yes, all equipment was split 60%, 40% as well.
Thank you.
Will that vehicle be on and running the whole time they're working at the facility, or?
No, it will not.
Thank you. That's exactly the answer.
But it will be backed into its parking spot.
Well, you know it.
You are correct. It will not.
Very good. I do like the language that was used in the agreement that Superintendent Shaw shared with you. On many fronts, it seems like it's pretty comprehensive. I've been thinking, where can I poke holes? And I'm not seeing much here, if any.
They did their homework. It's comprehensive, but it's also very clean.
Yeah.
Like it lays out very clear lines of responsibility and authority and accountability. And I've said this to Tyson many times, and I think he's found this to be true as well. In municipal government, we're really not creating a whole lot. We're just copying what other towns have done well, and this has worked well for Madison.
Very good. You do have it listed as an agreemento,
I was just gonna say this.
like the second page.
Okay.
Senior.
Agreement.
Oh, I see.
I think it's
I could have
actually
been,
a zero, but.
I think I had enchiladas that night. Second page?
Yes.
It's after the cover.
Yeah.
I'll get there, it says something about the first payment in 2024 as well.
Okay.
So how would that just logistically work? Would the school board cut us a check? Would it be under our payroll and then they would reimburse us? That's how?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'd probably just do it a couple times a year. I don't think we'd have to invoice it monthly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we can't load the payroll for that or something like that. So for the vehicle, we probably would ask for that right upon purchase.
Now, the cost split, does that include all the benefits and everything that they would get as well, or is that just the salary? Okay.
For the hours of operation, it's primarily, or it is just the school day then, it doesn't include extracurriculars that are held at the school after, or?
Correct. With the way that this is outlined, it's outlined for the school day. That is what the SRO's primary function is. Now, does that mean that's the only hours that they could potentially operate? No. If the school decides to want to work with us and we decide that, okay, this SRO, we're going to kick them home at noon and they're coming back at a 7 o'clock game, we're still going to have people in town that's going to come down to the school. We will have bodies that will be available for them, or vice versa. If they say, hey, we got a big game tonight with, a lot of parents going to be there, hard feelings are going to happen at the end of this game, can you make sure that we're going to be there? Yes, we're going to put bodies there. So I would like to echo with this agreement this is the first agreement that I've read in a long time that signifies a partnership. Not one side taking control or the other, just a true handed partnership.
Question for you, Chief, to projected overtime possibility from week to week, and who okays that?
I monitor all overtime for the department.
Okay.
The first line of defense is always the sergeant. He is always diligently checking their time cards. If we end up having a situation where somebody goes into overtime, there is a little box at the bottom where they have to justify why they went into overtime.
Okay.
I not only see that, Nate sees that. You know, we make sure that there's more than one set of eyes, and usually there's probably 3 or 4.
Sure.
So,
That would go with assuming that if it happens in the beginning of the week, they could adjust, correct?
we don't operate like that. There's some departments do actually. It's called, you know, comping your time. We unfortunately, we don't do that with an SRO program or with a full-time employee here. If they work overtime, they're still on a set schedule that's gonna give them their 84 hours per pay period regardless. There's a huge pitfall in that, and it gets messy with your staffing. If they happen to end up working on a major case and they take an extra 5 hours on this day and then 3 hours the next day, and then I lose them for an entire day, that puts a pitfall to us with limited staffing.
It's something you could probably work out with a larger department, but when you've only got one patrol officer at a time, it just doesn't work. You're gonna have to call in a part-timer that may or may not be available, or you're gonna have to rely on salaried staff to pull the shift.
And we love doing that.
And it's, I don't know that there's a whole lot of opportunities for overtime to arise in this type of program.
So how does that
I
work?
think there could be, I mean, if there are investigations that have to happen, those kinds of things that could go into some overtime, but.
I would see very few opportunities from an SRO perspective due to the fact that we have senior staff that will be on during that same day.
Right.
That will take over any major case that pops up. And between our senior staff, I don't see that overtime would be an issue unless it turned into the school needs more out of us. But at that point, that's where we have to sit down and talk about. How do we fix this issue? You want more out of us, you want us at games, and you know, our staff being limited, we can't provide, you know, 3 hours for that football game. Because we can only, you know, spend maybe an hour there to make sure things are going well, and then we have to get back out there and patrol it. We have a call that we get called to. All those things are things that we can work on. And I truly feel after talking to the new superintendent, he's the guy that I needed to talk to all of. This is a partnership, and he's 100% backed every play of it.
Good news.
I like where this is going.
Thank you.
Sorry for rambling on.
You're good.
Thanks.
Okay, do you have this direction? This?
Couple typos.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in business.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you. 6.3, future of Lennox ambulance.
Mayor and council, at the public hearing for the budget on October 27, I recommended to you that we cease providing EMS for areas outside our municipal boundary effective January of 2027. Tonight, I'd appreciate discussion tonight on that recommendation on the council's position on pursuing an ambulance district and how to proceed. I've included in your packets information from our consultant with respect to the work done on this project thus far. That includes a white paper on creating the district and the necessity for doing so. With tonight's direction, I plan to draft a resolution for upcoming action that formally directs the city to move in that direction. So I want to add that Lincoln County, that they are considering formation of a committee to study EMS in the county. That was tabled at the November 4 commission meeting in order to give time for T to finalize their own ambulance study. That's been going on for probably 8-9 months so far, and I think they've got a couple months left. So.
Okay. Discussion from council.
There's, I've been reading a lot of the attachments, and there's an opinion that we don't have the authority, or that the ambulance district cannot be formed without county blessing. Am I interpreting that properly?
That belief may be out there, but I don't know for sure.
has that been clarified?
Not yet.
Okay,
We are working through that.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I think the spirit of this is we need a sustainable solution.
Definitely.
We have needed it for a while.
Yeah, and what we've been doing wasn't working. We weren't getting traction. We need to get some traction.
Well, the conversation started in earnest when word was put out, when we advised Nate to communicate. Because that's what got these conversations actually started. The initial efforts in 2022 didn't bear any fruit, and no action was taken. There was no sense of urgency and no need to rock the boat or pick up a share, unfortunately. Now, with that being said, we did see additional contributions from some of the townships. There were some efforts being made to help carry the load, but without it formalized and without it in a consistent place to budget, it's too unpredictable, and we can't continue to put that on the residents of Lennox. I will say on behalf of everyone here, nobody wants the service discontinued. Period. So this gives us a chance to get to a resolution and have a plan, a sustainable plan going forward. That's the intent of this, and that's exactly why we had to put a deadline on it. To your point, without that, no action happens.
So we want to work with everybody and find a sustainable option.
Yep. The concern of having to get approval every year from the county to collect funds is my understanding that right?
You know, if you don't, well, you know, there's other funding options, right? You could do a district, you could keep it as is, or you could have every jurisdiction provide an appropriation to us to run ambulance for that area. Whether that's coming from the county, from a township, from a city, so on and so forth. If the options are between a publicly elected board supervising just EMS with that sole purpose of collecting a small levy just to fund emergency services, if the choices are between that and relying on ever-changing city councils, county commissions, townships, so on and so forth, that are, quite frankly, being further restricted by the state every year in what they're allowed to collect in revenue, I only see one of those being a sustainable option.
Right.
Unless there is a long-term agreement between all of those parties, and we're talking 12 townships, 3 cities, and 2 counties.
Right.
That you'd have to get to agree to that same funding formula.
189 square miles.
Yes.
And the bad part is we're all growing communities, and as our communities grow, the need grows. And what's a deficit of, what is it, $130,000?
133 for next year.
$133,000 for us now. If we're sharing that burden, our county and our cities are growing. That increases the need from each one of these. And like you said, the income from each one of these municipalities and counties is getting restricted. So you're right, it's not sustainable. In a perfect world, it sounds great. It sounds like a nice Band-Aid, but it's not sustainable.
You know, the legislature has looked at EMS funding this year with a summer study. And I think everybody should spend time reviewing that summer study and the testimony that was provided. I think everybody needs to review the series that SDPB did on EMS in South Dakota and look at the reality of providing EMS in rural South Dakota. This is not just a Lennox ambulance problem. This is a statewide problem. There is a statewide solution available to us in state law. And we are seeking to use that option as a sustainable resource for years to come. There's probably a dozen ambulance districts already in this state
We spoke with Parkston
Many years ago,
and they had very, very positive things to say about how that worked, and with the board actually overseeing it and the right people in the right place. We have that already, we just need to have it set up properly
and
financially.
a good governance structure.
Yes, the
And you
government
look at-
structure that allows for that.
Parkson is doing it, Lake Norden would be the other closest one. So, you know, it's not unheard of, East River either. You know, you look at some of the West River communities that you're kind of on your own if you have a medical
Right.
emergency.
Well, and that's just it, it's all about providing, you know, life-saving care.
Right.
And that's the end game, that's what we want.
I was talking with somebody this past weekend who said, what's the point of having world-class healthcare facilities in Sioux Falls if you can't get there?
Yeah.
You know, and I hadn't really thought of it that way, but that's accurate.
Right.
If you can't make it there, what's the point?
I want to highlight one other thing. I know we discussed it back in 2022 or whatever, but at least my opinion is if this does go forward and an additional levy is put on, that we would reduce the Lennox levy by that same amount to keep our citizens whole. Like, they're not gonna get additional tax because of this, because we've been supporting it all along. I don't know what the rest of the council's opinion on that is, but
I agree, I think that's, when I've talked to citizens about this and talked about the benefits, that was the number one question is, so we're gonna get additional taxes, the levy question
Right.
came up, and I wasn't a part of those initial conversations, but I think that's definitely something as a council we would need to discuss and decide, because I wouldn't wanna further burden our citizens for something that we're trying to make more accessible.
well, we're covering the whole thing with what we have today. I don't think we would need to raise our taxes.
Right.
Definitely not, and the math shows it when you look at the call volumes and where the actual needs are. It will play out that way.
State law doesn't keep you from reducing your levy, it just keeps you from increasing it.
Right.
Right. You know, that is a possibility. Obviously, we don't know what the legislature is going to come to on this property tax proposal, the upcoming session, but, you know, if that's the direction the council wishes to go, it's our obligation to meet it, so.
The only other question I had is like, I'm looking at like the current versus the tax districts, a lot more full-time employees. Would that ultimately be up to the board of the?
It would.
Of the district, okay.
Yeah. The levy, the staffing, all those decisions would be up to the new board. Yeah.
I heard positive things to keep moving forward this.
So I guess you're just wanting our support that your deadline.
That we're moving in the right
Comment,
direction, and then
yeah.
I'll formalize that in a resolution.
Right, and like emphasize what Bill already said is, our goal is to get to a solution that doesn't change the coverage or improves the coverage, so. We just need to get some progress.
Right.
There's a lot of really good information right here for anyone watching, or anyone interested. Read through this, it's very good.
And we'll make this more available than just having it here on our agenda. We'll make sure that it's available on our website with dedicated pages.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, Billy. I read through the whole thing and I thought to myself, who wouldn't want this?
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
off the cuff, you know?
Okay, I think we're on the same page.
Well, and the more we can communicate and make as a big of a deal of this as we possibly can, the more we'll be able to get engaged in conversations and answer questions, and then come up with some additional questions that we can ask. You know, it's imperative that people understand what's at stake, and not in a threatening way, but in a solvable way. This is a solution. We have an opportunity.
And let's get together with our neighbors in T and.
Absolutely.
And have some conversation.
Right.
Yeah, and that was one of the, you know, T and Harrisburg, because the proposed district is just our current boundaries, our current ambulance service boundaries, which nobody remembers how any of that was set, 50, 60 years ago. So nobody knows, and back then, T and Harrisburg were certainly not what they are today. I'll bet Harold Timmerman could tell us. He could? No, he asked. I think that's exactly who we would go to. He was there. He helped start this rail service. And so, if you, talking with T in Harrisburg, obviously some of the concern is, as they grow to the south, they don't wanna have 2 ambulance services serving the community. So how does that happen? And, those are things that we'll be able to work out with them, and quite frankly, it's up to the new board, if this is formed, to figure out how exactly that would work, but, those are all very solvable problems.
I guess another, not to throw a bunch of questions that we might not have answers to right now, but another question I got was, if this were to pass, how does the transition of property that the ambulance currently has today, obviously it's owned by the city today, how does that transfer work? Is it kind of a buyout process from their new board and funding?
You could do a buyout process. You're allowed to gift to another governmental unit in South Dakota from one to another, from one government to a governmental unit or a nonprofit. Giving away a building, maybe not ideal. They're also not going to have the money on day one
Right.
to make that purchase. They've got to collect it over time, that capital levy. So, you may say over 10 years, here's a depreciation schedule for the assets that you'll be receiving, and just go off of that. That would be my recommendation. But that's also got to be built into that capital levy that they set. So you don't want to get those levies wrong from the start. So if you get those wrong, state law says CPI plus growth. And that's it. That's all you can grow. So you have to get the levy right from the start.
Thank you.
So based on that, where did the 30 cents come from?
It's based on, there's a budget, I don't remember if it's in this document or
It
not.
is, I saw it.
So there's a capital budget and a staffing budget, and that's what that 30-cent levy is based on. That's going to be refined further. We still need to drill down on some of the taxable values in the district. If the district were to expand to include other areas, it would significantly bring that levy down.
Other questions in regards to this? Okay, if you have direction that we need, Nate?
Thank you.
I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.